Good evening. Linda, could you please give the invocation?
Psalms 18:35. You have given your shield of victory to me, and your right hand sustains me. Thank you, Father, that you reminded me of the word victory yesterday, and tonight you give me the opportunity to share your words about victory at this city council meeting. And isn't it interesting, Father, that you reminded me that back in 1871 in Freeport, the victory statue was placed on top of the soldiers' monument. And even though it was destroyed in 1960, it was replaced and reinstated in 2015 because you said, bring victory back to Freeport. Lord, you have placed people in Freeport that understand the meaning of victory, who understand the sacrifices people made for victory, and understand the importance of calling forth victory. Thank you that it reminds us that our past and future victories are not due to our goodness or to our abilities, but due to your grace, your power, and your love. Father, we pray and ask you to help us to move forward and have victory in our individual lives, victory in our community, and victory in our nation. Help us to have victory over unjustified opposition, victory over discouragement, victory over finances, victory over health, family and marriage issues, and victory over unseen strategies of the enemy. In 2 Chronicles 20:15-17, it says, the battle is not yours but God's. You will not have to fight this battle. Take up your positions, stand firm, and see the deliverance the Lord will give you. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. Go out to face them, and the Lord will be with you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Linda. So now we'll officially call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Mayor Miller,
Here.
Alderpersons Borneman,
Here.
McClanathan,
Here.
Ross,
Here.
Parker,
Here.
Busker,
Here.
Brashaw, Mysick,
Here.
and Berberet.
Here.
Thank you. And if you could please stand and join us with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Alderman Parker.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 1 is the approval of the agenda. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Busker, seconded by Alderman Brashaw. All those in favor of approving the agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Item number 2 is the approval of the minutes from the meeting on September 8th, 2020. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Mysick, seconded by Alderman Berberet. All those in favor of approving those minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Alderman Parker, can you look and see if there's anyone signed up for public comment? Akia? If you'd like to take the microphone, you have 3 minutes. Well, you can talk about it now because it's an agenda item.
You said I got 3 minutes? Okay, I just wanted to speak on, we got an application in for special use. We have been invested in this property for over a year, and we're going through the motions and we're trying our best to get it approved. It's going with the Freeport's plan for the downtown area. I'm willing to work with the city of Freeport, abide by all rules, regulations, and everything else. I just wanted to state that before any concerns and things come up, because we do understand the concerns as well.
Thank you, Akia. We appreciate that. Then we will move on to item number 4, which is the consent agenda. The consent agenda is considered to be routine in nature and will be voted on in one motion unless there's something that the member of council would like to remove for further discussion. Is there anything for removal, council? Seeing none, the consent agenda consists of approving and placing on file the Joint Review Board minutes from Burchard Hills, Downtown, Meadows, and West Avenue TIF districts from November 19th, 2019, and the Joint Review Board minutes from the Lamb Road TIF district from November 19th, 2019. The Zoning Board of Appeals minutes from December 5th and August 6th, 2019. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. It's the August 6th, 2020. The firefighters' pension fund minutes from April 22nd, 2020. The police pension fund minutes from April 22nd, 2020. The planning commission minutes from July 9th and August 13th, 2020. The liquor commission minutes from August 13th and August 31st, 2020. The 2011 calendar for holiday council meetings and committee of the whole meetings.
Yay.
Did I say it wrong? Okay, so it's the 2021 calendar. I apologize. So, and the Freeport Housing Authority monthly report and Parkside update from August 2020. The proclamation declaring September 21st to the 27th, 2020 for the National Rail Safety Week. The proclamation declaring September 20th to the 26th, 2020 for the National Adult Daycare Service Week. The Police Department report for July and August 2020. The financial reports for the General Library, Water, Sanitary Sewer Funds, and the Storm Sewer Funds, August 31st, 2020. The Cash and Investment report from August 31st, 2020. Also is B, the approval of the finance bills payable in total $858,014.06, and the approval of payroll for pay period ending September 12th, 2020 in the total of $546,743.17. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Brashaw, seconded by Alderman Misick. Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Parker,
Aye.
Busker,
Aye.
Brashaw,
Aye.
Misick,
Aye.
Berberay,
Aye.
Borneman,
Aye.
McClanathan,
Aye.
and Ross.
Aye.
Okay. I'm going to read the following proclamation. Whereas National Voters Registration Day is a nonpartisan civic holiday celebrating our democracy and our nation's right to vote. First observed in 2012, it has quickly gained momentum and nearly 3 million voters have registered to vote to date. The holiday has been endorsed by the National Association of Secretaries of State, the National Association of State Election Directors, the United States Election Assistance Commission, and the National Association of Election Officials. And whereas, as one of the fundamental and sacred rights of any democracy is the right to vote. In order for our government to function effectively and respond to the needs of our people, citizens must play a role in shaping it. Each year, on National Voter Registration Day, we reaffirm the strong sense of civic duty among our people and encourage friends, family members, and neighbors to get involved by registering to vote. And whereas the City of Freeport recognizes the importance to educate, empower, and engage our residents to take part in the civic responsibilities of voting. We encourage residents to register to vote. The last day to register online is October 18th, 2020. To register, you must be a United States citizen, be 18 by November 3rd, and have a valid Illinois current driver's license or 2 forms of identification. And whereas during National Voter Registration Day, we commit to exercising one of the most precious rights that we have as Americans and take seriously our responsibility to make our voices heard in the next election cycle. Now therefore, I, Jody Miller, Mayor of the City of Freeport, do hereby proclaim September 22nd, 2020 as National Voter Registration Day in the City of Freeport. And I just wanted to give Sharon a few moments to be able to speak as well. So thank you, Sharon.
This is a great day for us, National Voter Registration Day, and as the mayor said, it was only started in 2012, but has really grown. Our Freeport League of Women Voters got involved starting in 2016, and we decided for that event to form teams, and we secured permission from all the convenience stores in Freeport, and we didn't know there were so many till we started looking, and there were 13. So we formed teams and we got all our materials together and we spent the day there meeting people and offering voter registration material and the opportunities, but also to tell them a little bit about elections and so on. And it was a wonderful experience. This year we connected with Highland College's librarian, Laura Watson. She wanted to know if we wouldn't do a video or something because of the COVID issue, that we would do a video about voter registration. We thought, you know, those young students probably would rather see young people talking on the video rather than us, but we'd be happy to provide the material, the script, the issues and things they could talk about. So she contacted the drama department and the speech department, and they've got it just about put together. It's not quite ready yet, but she's promising to share it with all of us when it gets done. But we thought, what a wonderful opportunity to work with the college on that issue. This week, I'm spending every morning at the Freeport High School, except for Wednesdays when they're just virtual. I'm going to the senior English classes, and I'm offering to register students there. We've found 3 different video clips online that are really funny and are really targeted at young people and why they should not stay home. You know, they represent like 30% of the population that has the potential to be voting, and they turn out at between 15 and 20% only in voting. So why? And so these videos talk about that, plus I have several handouts I give them that say, you know, do you want to still have your parents making your decisions in 5 or 10 years? Well, no, they don't. And well, do you want to have other people making the decisions about your life and your country? No, so getting involved, and they're very, very receptive, and the teachers have been very helpful too. But just to quickly go through a couple of the other things that we've got worked out despite the COVID restrictions. Usually we'd be sitting out at many places with our tables registering people, but we have gotten permission to sit outside at the City of Freeport Housing Authority buildings and some of the senior assisted living places. With the elementary schools, we usually are at Meet the Teacher night, but of course that didn't happen in a very public way, but they had like a supply drop-off night, and so they had invited us to bring our materials and our handouts, so we did that. We were able to provide materials when the Boys and Girls Club had their backpack giveaway. And twice a month now, we've been coordinating with FHN does a food truck giveaway twice a month out at the Lincoln Mall, and then they'll change to other locations when the weather gets cooler. But they also have a mobile RX, opportunity for people to get their blood pressures checked and so on. But anyway, while they're all in their cars lined up, we walk the car lines, going from window to window to window, handing out material, answering questions, and we've, really had great reception there too with people who genuinely did not know some of the rights and opportunities and things related to voting and getting registered to vote. I should probably have this down. We also, back in February, pre-COVID time, if you can remember back to that, we went to, we had the churches. We had 15 churches cooperate with us, and we had voter registration Sunday and provided a lot of information there. Right now, we're in the middle of a postcard sending project where we're having volunteers write out 300 postcards, and we're sending those to areas that Vicki Odie helped us identify as some of the lowest turnout areas of the city. I go to neighborhood rallies and picnics and festivals. We are in the library lobby sometimes. But mostly I shouldn't say mostly, but every month that we meet, we have, on the fourth Tuesday, we have an educational, informational program too. And we've been doing those via Zoom, and Voice of Freeport has also filmed them for us or streamed them for us, so that we've tried to keep people involved. Vicki Odie spoke at our August meeting, and tomorrow night we're having two women from the State League of Women Voters who are the issues experts on the fair tax amendment that's on the ballot, so people can find out their information. In August, we celebrated 100 years of the women winning the right to vote with a march of gratitude. Maybe some of you saw us around downtown. We know that the fight for voting rights continues, and we believe that the key to getting out the vote is education. So thank you again for this proclamation and for voting yourselves, right? Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon, for all the practical ways that you're educating, empowering, and engaging our citizens with voting. So thank you for that. Item number 6 is an appointment. Madam Clerk, would you please read this?
Acceptance of appointment of Priscilla Ian to the Social Justice Committee, effective immediately until December 15th, 2020.
Discussion, Council?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the appointment as stated.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion made by Alderman Brashaw, seconded by Alderman Busker for the approval as stated. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Parker,
Aye.
Busker,
Aye.
Brashaw,
Aye.
Meissick,
Aye.
Berberet,
Aye.
Borneman,
No.
McClanathan,
Aye.
and Ross.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-1.
Thank you. Item number 7 is the second reading of ordinance 2020-47. Could you please read this?
Ordinance adopting comprehensive plan.
Thank you. Director Hines.
Thank you. So at the previous council meeting, or previous COW in August, we had a presentation from Leslie Roth at Ratio on the comprehensive plan. As you know, the Advisory Committee and Planning Commission put a lot of hard work and effort into this to help guide us for the next 10 years on our planning and work that we put in. So if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Discussion, Council.
Madam Mayor,
Alderman Brashaw.
I just want to thank you for all your work on this, Director Hines, and everyone who put this together. We've reviewed it several times as a council and have read through it, and it's very impressive. And I truly believe it's a good footprint to help Freeport move forward. So I just want to thank you.
Thank you for that. If there's no further discussion, Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Parker,
Aye.
Busker,
Aye.
Brashaw,
Aye.
Meissick,
Aye.
Berberet,
Aye.
Borneman,
Aye.
McClanathan,
Aye.
and Ross.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. Item number 8 is the second reading of ordinance 2020-48. Could you please read this?
An ordinance of the City of Freeport approving and authorizing the city to enter into a real estate lease agreement with Peter Alber regarding 103 through 111 South Liberty Avenue.
Thank you. Manager Bucus.
Thank you, Your Honor. The city staff has been in discussions with Peter Alber regarding the renovation of the metal-clad building, as we call it, one of the Raleigh buildings the city owns. Mr. Alber is interested in leasing the first floor of the building for storage, as he owns and operates a business next to this building. The building is currently vacant, and by having a tenant in the building, we'll be able to better monitor the condition of the building. Mr. Alber plans to remove the east ramp and construct a new ramp, supply electricity to the first floor, and make a few other minor revisions. The lease agreement requires Mr. Alber to pay the city $1,000 to the city for a one-year lease, and staff recommends that City Council adopt ordinance 2020-48.
Thank you. Discussion, Council.
Madam Mayor,
Alderman Brashaw.
thank you. Manager Bucas, is it true that we received no income on this building at this time?
That's correct.
And further, may I? Thank you. This gentleman that is looking at renting this building for a nominal fee, is looking at making some revisions, including supplying electric to the first floor at his own expense. Is this true?
That is correct, yes.
And if I may continue, Madam Mayor, then the city would benefit somewhat too with some of the improvements he's putting into this,
Yes,
if he would not want to renew that lease.
that's correct.
In your
Yes, he's-
opinion, would this make it a more saleable property if Mr. Albers, say, would not want to continue leasing?
It would.
Thank you.
One thing I could say too is that Mr. Albert's been kind of watching that building for us over the last few years as well. So,
And one more question, Madam Mayor. Is Mr. Albert responsible for maintaining the exterior areas of the building? Say if there's an area that needed to be plowed or snow removal? Ice melt, et cetera?
I'm trying to think what's in the lease. I believe so, yes.
Should I ask legal counsel that question?
Yeah.
While he's looking on that up,
Well,
Madam
we
Mayor.
have maintenance repair you'd be responsible for.
So that is true?
We're responsible for basically walls out as far as maintenance. He's responsible for walls in. As far as snow plowing, my understanding is that there's not actually really parking associated with that site. Was an item that was brought up, but there's not an actual parking lot for that particular building, so it was a moot point with regards to snow plowing.
Thank you. May I continue, Madam Mayor? So Mr. Albers then does not maintain the exterior, just the interior. So is he responsible for the utility service that he would have hook up to that building?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. With those answers to the questions I posed, I would be in favor of it as I understand it to be written.
Any other discussion, council? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll on the passage of ordinance 2020-48?
Parker?
Aye.
Busker?
Aye.
Brashaw?
Aye.
Meissick?
Aye.
Berbere?
Aye.
Borneman?
Aye.
McClanathan?
Aye.
And Ross.
Aye.
The ordinance passes 8-0.
Thank you. Item number 9 is the second reading for ordinance 2020-49. Could you please read this?
An ordinance of the City of Freeport pertaining to the local CURE program.
Thank you. Manager Bucus.
Thank you, Your Honor. The coronavirus has taken a toll on local government finances. The federal government, through the state of Illinois, has provided a way for the city to recoup some of its expenses attributed to the COVID-19. The city has received a financial support certification from the state. The city can be reimbursed up to $1 million in COVID-19 expenses. However, we do not believe we're going to make the maximum amount. But we are planning to participate and to seek for reimbursement those costs that we can. This program is a reimbursable program through the state of Illinois in obtaining these federal funds. And staff recommends that the council adopt the ordinance to allow us to submit our certification to the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity.
Any further discussion, council? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll on the passage of ordinance 2020-49?
Parker?
Aye.
Busker?
Aye.
Brashaw?
Aye.
Meissick?
Aye.
Berbere?
Aye.
Borneman?
Aye.
McClanathan?
Aye.
And Ross.
Aye.
The ordinance passes 8-0.
Thank you. Item number 10 is the first reading of ordinance 2020-50. Could you please read this?
Ordinance approving special use permits for 102 through 108 West Spring Street.
Director Hines.
Thank you. Staff received a special use application from Raven Eichmeyer seeking to occupy 102 through 108 West Spring Street, actually units 104, 106, and 108. It's a commercially zoned building. It's B-1-2, and to use this space as a meeting hall, it requires a special use. The proposed use would occur, like I said, in units 104, 106, and 108 West Spring Street only. This is approximately 2,500 to 3,000 square feet. The use would allow for the renting of the facility to individuals for scheduled meetings and gatherings. Examples may include, but or include but may not be limited to community events, weddings, birthdays, baby showers, business meetings, and kids events. So our recommendation, currently there is no definition of the term meeting hall in city ordinances. There's also no regulation of oversight of meeting halls or social clubs where the sale of alcohol is not involved. The city has experienced difficulties with rental halls in the past involving disorderly gatherings and criminal activity, which raised a concern by the Freeport Police Department. In order to help ensure proper oversight, the administration has requested an amendment to the codified ordinances to further define the functional parameters for this type of establishment and to explore the possibilities of licensing hall for hire. Of additional concern is the possibility of allowing consumption of alcohol on the premises. Currently, the city does not regulate BYOB functions, but is looking into the need to do so in the instance of a large non-residential gathering. This concern could be nullified if the special use precludes the presence of alcoholic beverages at the location, but the petitioner had made it clear that they do not want to prevent the presence of alcohol completely. Lastly, the property has been in disrepair for some time. The city understands that renovations continue, and the petitioner has been in contact with our building and fire inspectors regarding building and fire code requirements. At the present time, due to the multiple outstanding concerns and changing landscape, it's the recommendation of staff that the current petition either be approved with a provision that future changes to the codified ordinances of the city of Freeport be adhered to, or denied with leave to reinstate at a later date. If choosing the latter, we would suggest council waive the 1-year waiting period for a reapplication given the circumstances. It's the recommendation of the Zoning Board of Appeals and the Planning Commission to approve the special use application with the provision that the future changes of the city of Freeport codified ordinances be adhered to. Now for the standards for granting special use permits. So the establishment, maintenance, or operation of the special use will not be detrimental to or endanger the public health, safety, and general welfare. The proposed use may be detrimental to or endanger the public health, safety, and general welfare because there is currently no regulation or oversight of meeting halls or social clubs. The city has previously experienced difficulties with rental halls involving disorderly gatherings and criminal activity. The special use will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate area for the purpose already permitted, nor substantially diminish the and impair property value within the neighborhood. And the establishment of the special use will not impede the normal and orderly development and improvement of the adjacent property for uses permitted in the district. For the LaSalle Sinclair factors, the proposed use is similar to some nearby property. The downtown district contains a mix of properties, zone B-1-2 and B-2-2. In B-2-2, the meeting halls are permitted, although in the current zoning, it's special use. Those property values are not likely to diminish by the proposed use. The proposed use is permitted at some nearby properties, as just stated. The proposed use may endanger the public health, safety, and welfare of the city. The proposed use meeting halls is not defined in the city code, and there is no regulation or oversight of meeting halls or social clubs where the sale of alcohol is not involved. The city has experienced difficulties with these types of facilities in the past involving disorderly gatherings and criminal activity, which may endanger the public health, safety, and welfare of neighboring properties. The proposed use may place any hardship on the public or the property owner of the adjacent properties due to the lack of definition of meeting halls where the sale of alcohol is not involved and the history of disorderly conduct at such facilities. The proposed use may impose hardships on the public or property owners of adjacent properties. The subject property is well suited for the proposed use. The property had previously been occupied by 2 bars/restaurants, which would be a suitable use for a meeting hall. The property was partially vacant for 3 years, and another portion has been vacant since late 2019. The bar restaurant occupied units 104, 106, and 108 for some time and vacated in 2017. The proposed use, or the proposed amendment, is somewhat consistent with the comprehensive plan dated April 5, 2010. The comprehensive plan dated April 5, 2010 includes an objective to attract new retail, office, and entertainment businesses. The proposed amendment could be considered an entertainment business, although this may vary depending on the type of activity taking place at the proposed location. The proposed amendment will not benefit the needs of the community. The proposed use exists in other spaces nearby the subject property, including but not limited to the Masonic Temple, Freeport Public Library, and the Stevenson County Farm Bureau. The proposed amendment would provide an additional meeting space for members of the community, though there is no clear evidence that this would benefit the needs of the community. The Zoning Board of Appeals and the Planning Commission, they recommended to approve the special use application with the provision that future changes to the City of Freeport codified ordinances be adhered to. And I can take questions at this time.
Thank you, Director Hines. Council.
Mayor,
Alderman Borneman.
thank you. When you're reading the LaSalle Sinclair factors, you said the proposed use, and then sometimes you say the proposed amendment. And what would the proposed amendment be?
That may just be a language, a misuse of language on my part. It would just be a special use. There would be no amendment.
But a special use is by itself kind of like an amendment. Is that how I'm understanding it?
Yeah, it would be essentially an amendment to that, the units within that property.
All right, that's what I thought. Just thanks for the clarification. I have another question. Is there any, you listed this in Factor 8, but is this proposed use comparable to any other business or location in town other than what you've mentioned there? Can you think of any you'd compare it to?
The hotel nearby, the Grand River Hall. I think I'm blanking on some other places, but
What about places that don't have liquor licenses?
that don't have liquor none of these places have liquor licenses.
Such as the Masonic, the library, the Farm Bureau that you listed?
Yes.
Okay. And then there's basically, like you said, there's no ordinance to regulate the use of what would be fair to say commercial bring your own alcohol events in Freeport.
That's correct. We currently don't have a bring your own type of alcohol ordinance in place, so we don't have any regulations set to try and avoid any, I guess, mishappenings or.
Okay. And then just another, is there state level ordinance or regulations on this type of use?
Yes. I'm not completely familiar with them.
I'm hearing here that, yes, there is, but I don't know what the regulations are, but there are regulations that the state does regulate the bring your own brews.
All right. Thank you.
Mayor.
Alderman Ross.
Yes, Director. Can you clarify again for me? I see they had weddings on here. Normally at a wedding, they do have alcohol. But that would not, the special use permit will not involve, excuse me, the special use permit would not allow alcohol to be served on the premises, correct? Or wrong?
So the special use permit at this time would not, it wouldn't regulate the use of alcohol if it was brought in by patrons. You have to get a liquor license to sell and serve liquor, but if it, like we had said, like the BYOB, bring your own beer, booze, that's not regulated under our ordinance or under this use. So what we're proposing is that we're looking at changing the use of meeting hall and updating it to make sure that we're covering those things. But at this time, it does not cover it. So the recommendation to approve with the provision that future changes are adhered to would then make sure that those things are covered.
Okay, follow up, Mayor. So it would be okay for them to BYOB or not?
Under our current code, yes.
Okay. And they would, then that person would regulate so it doesn't get out of hand. How would they regulate that it doesn't get out of hand, bring your own bottle?
That's a good question, and that's why we're recommending that either we approve with the provision to adhere to future changes to make sure that we can then add something to the code that regulates BYOB, or deny to reinstate at a later date and allow the petitioner to come back and reapply within the, normally it's a year, you can't reapply within a year, but.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay, thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Alderman Busker.
Yeah, when you were reading through that, you said a couple different times that this could be a detrimental to the community, to the area, because things like this have caused problems in the past. What are some of the steps that we're looking at changing in the ordinance to mitigate that the zoning board and that decided to recommend approval of this?
So the things that we're looking at changing would be like the regulating BYOB, which would give more oversight of the use of alcohol in zoning uses like this. Like if a bar serves alcohol, they have to follow certain regulations, but a BYOB function wouldn't necessarily have to follow those same regulations. So to try and avoid anything bad that could happen with, if people are drinking too much or whatever it is, because things can get out of hand in those situations. The BYOB ordinance or having some sort of oversight over that would limit the use similar to what a liquor license would do. I hope that answers the question.
Are there limits as far as hours of operation? I know the bars and such on weekends, they can be open until 2 a.m. Is there regulations on a meeting hall then?
No, there are not.
No, so if somebody wanted to be there at 4 a.m. and still having their party going on, bringing their own alcohol in, there's nothing that stops that.
Yes, that's right.
Mayor,
Alderman McClanathan.
thank you. This is probably the most qualified or when I say qualified is when you're going, usually when you list the factors, you usually say, yes, it meets, no, it doesn't meet. And this one's full of caveats on here, which surprises me, raises some red flags. But I want to go back to the ordinance as presented on here. You said it's kind of BYOB, but the fourth whereas clause and both section 2 reference a special use allowing the sale of alcoholic liquor on the premises. Is that the intent?
I do not have that in front of me.
Okay. Yeah, it says on the fourth whereas clause, going to the second half of it, says, which is currently zoned B1-2 to grant a special use permit as set forth in the petition to allow the sale of alcoholic liquor on the premises. And then later on in section 2, it's in the first sentence, it said the findings of and recommendations of the Zoning Board of Appeals and the Planning Commission as set forth in the report attached here to as Exhibit A are hereby accepted, and a special use permit to allow the sales of alcoholic liquor on the premises is hereby granted. Is that what we were intending to do?
No.
Okay.
Manager Bucus.
I believe, Mr. Alderman, that the intent was for consumption and not sales.
Okay. Follow-up, Mayor. Obviously, I'd like to see that addressed before we take any final action on this, but you referenced repairs and when you were going through some of the factors in regards to that. Are these premises at the point where the city was looking to have certain required repairs prior to moving forward on it, or what was the main intent of referencing the repairs here?
So the property has been in need of repair for a few years. The building inspector and fire inspector, they had gone and looked at the property, I believe it was earlier this year. And there were some issues, and this might not be 100% accurate, but I believe it was dealing with something with the bathrooms that needed to be updated, but before they could issue a certificate of occupancy, and there was some issues with the current existing kitchen hood that was within the property.
Further follow-up, Mayor? On the third whereas section or clause, which says meeting halls are not permitted uses in B1-1 districts, but are allowed as special use, is pursuant to section 1252.01 subsection B7 of the code under certain circumstances. What are those certain circumstances which allows it as a special use?
So it would be allowed as a special use if it meets the standards for special use, if it meets the LaSalle Sinclair factors that I went through, and given approval by ZBA, the Planning Commission, and Council.
So there aren't any special additional circumstances to meeting halls other than the ones that you normally need for special use?
No.
Okay. I guess just a comment, Mayor. In addition to the one issue that I had raised in regards to the language on the sales of alcoholic liquor, if I were a petitioner, I think I would much rather know the parameters under which I'm having to operate or not operate, as opposed to a nebulous, yes, I get granted special use, and then after the fact, it might run into some legal issues too regarding applicability, ex post facto, things of that nature. So I think it would be prudent for all parties to get that hashed out. Also, some of what you mentioned beforehand in regards to definitions, parameters, things of that nature, just so both know what they're approving or not approving before we would get to any final stage of consideration at the council level.
Is the ZBA and the Planning Commission working on that now, or?
The plan is that it would go to the zoning board at the next scheduled meeting in October.
Mayor,
Alderman Ross?
okay, with all due respect, I have no problem with the special use permit. No problem at all. But I think we really need to get, I might be repeating myself, we need to get a handle on the alcohol, because that's going to be the, shall we say, the most important part. Because if we don't, it could turn into a problem that we don't need. And I'm not saying it's going to happen, but we need something in black and white written down so that, as Alderman McClanahan said, so everybody knows what's going on. The person who's applying for it, and then us in a whole too. So that way everybody's meeting in the middle. Nobody's passing blame on nobody, and it kind of makes a long story short. So like I said, I think, yeah, I'll support it if we can get a handle on the alcohol and go from there.
Madam Mayor?
Alderman Bradshaw?
Thank you. I agree with what most of our alder people have already spoke about, but I was kind of confused with the LaSalle Sinclair factors that they have not all been met. Items number 3, 4, and 8 definitely have not been met. 6 and 7 are questionable. I was kind of surprised in a way that they recommended approval of the special use application when those factors have not been met. But I have nothing against granting this special use permit as long as we can meet those and write it into a codified ordinance. Perhaps the Zoning Board of Appeals will have some better ideas when they look at the state policy and rewrite it. But at this time, I'm not comfortable with it when those factors have not been met.
And I should say too, so the zoning board, the LaSalle Sinclair factors, this is my staff report. The ZBA looked through the LaSalle Sinclair factors and had made the decision that they met the criteria. And then they recommended the approval with the provision of future changes. But the what is in the staff report is the staff report.
May I continue, Mayor? So I'm to understand that the Zoning Board of Appeals, they believe that those factors were met, but your staff believed that they were not. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor?
Alderman Busker?
Yes, do they have a date at which they'd like to open up for business? Do you know?
I do not know if there's an exact date.
Okay, so I'd follow up. Yeah, this sounds like a decent venue, if, like to let them make it work, but I think we gotta definitely iron out the alcohol, and whatever other factors there. I mean, I'd almost like to approve it with an amendment to not allow any alcohol on the premises until we get an ordinance established. I don't know if it's in our privy to do that, but that would be my recommendation.
Where do we want to go with this, council?
Mayor,
Alderman McClanahan.
I'd like to see this cleaned up and hashed out before, I don't want to be approving it piecemeal. You know, a little bit here and then a little bit there and then going back and forth. I mean, I think the property, it deserves to have it fully hashed out before it gets to this level.
So you'd like to send it back to the ZBA and planning?
Well, there was not a second, I didn't hear on the motion, right? So there's not a motion on the floor at this time? Yeah, then I would make a motion to send it back to the ZBA, and it also, as part of the motion, asks that the staff take additional action pursuant to what we've raised here in regards to those issues that still look like they're outstanding and need to be addressed.
Second.
Mayor,
Alderman Ross.
yes, I have to agree with Alderman McClanahan, because due to the fact that the other bar owners in the area, they have a liquor license, and if we were allowed to go through at this point, I'm quite sure they would not be happy at all. Thank you.
So the motion on the floor made by Alderman McClanahan, seconded by Alderman Busker, is to send this back to the ZBA and, what was the other part of it you said?
And to have the staff, in the meantime, work on all those different issues that have been raised tonight,
Okay.
that are out there and unclear, that led to the staff recommendation of one of the options being approval, but it be subject to future changes. Well, let's take care of those and look at what those changes are now.
Look at the changes now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Madam Mayor,
Alderman Busker.
do we need to adjust so that they can come back at an earlier date than just 1 year, or is that?
This isn't
Where are we
pushing it
at
out
right
for a
now?
year. This is just sending it back to the ZBA, which will be meeting in a few weeks, I believe.
Okay.
The mayor,
Alderman McClanahan.
right, I didn't make a motion to deny, just to send it back to the ZBA.
Okay.
Okay, so if there's no further discussion, council? Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll on the motion as Alderman McClanahan has stated?
This was just first reading. Wouldn't that be done at second reading, if I'm not mistaken?
So that normally we do a motion second if we're going to move it forward,
But we're
the
not.
council, because this is being referred back to ZBA for further homework, for lack of a better term, then we would just need a roll call vote on this.
Understood. Parker?
Aye.
Busker?
Aye.
Brashaw?
Aye.
Meissick?
Aye.
Berberay?
Aye.
Borneman?
Aye.
McClanathan?
Aye.
And Ross?
Aye.
The motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. Item number 11 is the first reading of ordinance 2020-52. Could you please read this?
One moment, please. Ordinance authorizing the sale of certain items of personal property owned by the city, namely K9 Auto.
Thank you. Chief Summers.
At the end of this month, Officer Anderson, who's our K-9 officer, is resigning from the Freeport Police Department to take a position in a different department, which puts us in a tricky position with the K-9 officer. Otto is still serviceable. However, he's in the second half of his career. To make things a little more difficult is I'm not sure when we are going to have the manpower to put an officer with Otto. Therefore, we would have to kennel Otto and still care and maintain the health issues with Otto in that time. And to put him with just a regular house, there's a lot of liability there if the dog gets out and gets away from the property. It can cause a lot of damage. And it's my suggestion is that we, normally when a dog retires, working dog retires, the handler takes the dog with it. Officer Anderson has agreed to take the dog with him and assume all the responsibility that goes along with the dog. So it'd be my recommendation, since we don't know when we could send an officer to training and those skills are diminishable, that we sell the dog or deem the dog. It's kind of rough to say, just label him as surplus property, but put him into that category so we can keep the proper care for the canine.
Madam Mayor,
Alderman Brashaw.
thank you. I recognize that our states look at dogs as chattel, as saleable property rather than as a person, and we like to refer to Otto as Canine Officer Otto. So I can understand your words choices there as far as not wanting to call him surplus property. I'm also understanding that these canine officers attach themselves to their trainers, and they don't, it's sometimes hard to retrain them with another officer. With that said, I have just a couple of concerns. If Canine Officer Otto goes with this police officer that he's been trained with, Officer Anderson, is Officer Anderson allowed or intending to use Otto in another PD? And if so, will that community contribute to any of our original costs?
I don't know if Officer Anderson has any desire to put him in effect with the other department, or if the other department plans on using him. I don't know the answer to that. I just know that we can't care for the dog at this time for the length of time that it would take before we could send him back to school with another handler to build that bond and learn the skills together.
Thank you.
Mayor.
Alderman Ross.
Yes, Chief, I do agree with you 100%. I think with Officer Otto, he would be the best fit with Officer Anderson, just due to the fact that they're more one-on-one. And like you said, trying to retrain and all that, it's going to cost us more money, should we say. But he would be best, I think, with Officer Anderson, because that'll make really, I see it again, long story short, with all due respect.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor,
Alderman Busker.
motion to move it forward.
Second. Don.
Comment?
Alderman Parker.
Well, if he's leaving the end of the month and we don't meet again till next month, do we need to move this forward and approve?
Yes, we do. So we have a motion on the floor made by Alderman Busker, seconded by Alderman Ross, to move ordinance 2020-52 on. So what we're looking for is a suspension of the rules, simply because by our next meeting for second reading, he'll already be gone.
I'll make the motion to.
Second.
the rules.
So we have a motion made by Alderman Parker and seconded by Alderman Ross for suspension of the rules. Suspension of the rules is non-debatable and must pass by a 2/3 majority. Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll on the suspension of the rules only?
I'm sorry, Mayor, I missed the second on the suspension of the rules.
Ross.
And for a vote, Alderman Parker,
Aye.
Busker,
Aye.
Brashaw,
Aye.
Meissick,
Aye.
Berberay,
Aye.
Borneman,
Aye.
McClanathan,
Aye.
and Ross.
Aye.
The motion passes 8-0.
So then now before you, council, is the final approval for this ordinance 2020-52. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Parker,
Aye.
Busker,
Aye.
Brashaw,
Aye.
Meissick,
Aye.
Berberay,
Aye.
Borneman,
Aye.
McClanathan,
Aye.
and Ross.
Aye.
And the ordinance passes 8-0 also.
Thank you. Item number 12 is the first reading of ordinance 2020-53. Could you please read this?
An ordinance of the City of Freeport amending Part 8, Business Regulation and Taxation Code, Title II, Business Regulation, adding Chapter 879, Pet Stores, to the codified ordinances of the City of Freeport.
Thank you. Manager Bucus.
Thank you, Your Honor. Currently, the city does not regulate the sale of pets by pet stores in Freeport. Many puppies and kittens sold in pet stores come from large-scale commercial breeding facilities, and some of these pet stores mislead consumers as to where the puppies and kittens in the store come from. The issue of puppy mills was discussed at the Committee of the Whole meeting on September 14, 2020. The Humane Society of the United States has supported an ordinance similar to the one that we're proposing tonight, and staff's recommendation is that council adopt ordinance number 2020-53.
Discussion, council.
Madam Mayor,
Alderman Meisak.
so for the public, this was discussed at our committee of the whole meeting just this past week, and as we were talking through it, is to understand that this does not prohibit private sale where you're meeting the owner and the traditional type of exchange of purchasing a pet in that manner, and it specifically is for pet stores, and it is to regulate so that we do not have puppy mills. And so I'm in favor to consider this for adoption today, or
Thank
for
you.
moving forward today.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Alderman Borneman.
Manager, with regards to the whereas portions in the ordinance, is that going to be, the actual ordinance is going to have these whereas clauses?
No.
So when it's entered, it's just going to be the language set forth in Chapter 8. Like in this, it says Chapter 879 pet stores, and below, when you look up Chapter 89, it's just going to show that. It's not going to have the whereas.
That's
Like-
correct. It'll be section 2 through section 2. Everything that's underlined in the on the second page of the proposed ordinance would be in the ordinance. So section 879.01 through 879.03 is the ordinance that's being proposed. That would be the language.
All right, great, thanks.
Any further discussion, council?
Was there a motion to,
There's not.
I'd make a motion to move this forward as first reading, right?
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Borneman, seconded by Alderman Parker, to move ordinance 2020-53 on to the next regularly scheduled meeting.
You were the second.
Parker, second.
Item number 13 is the first reading of ordinance 2020-54. Madam Clerk, could you please read this?
An ordinance establishing the compensation of mayor and city clerk.
Thank you. Manager Bucus.
Thank you, Your Honor. With the municipal elections scheduled for April 2021, the City Council has to set salaries of those positions by November 7th, 2020. The last time there was a review, the mayor's salary was set. It was decreased the first year and then raised by 0.05% for the next 3 years. I'm recommending that the mayor's salary be increased by 1% each year, which is basically a $280 increase for the next 4 years. The position of city clerk was also decreased the first year and then raised by 0.05% the next 3 years. And I am recommending that the city clerk's salary be increased by 1% per year and a $2,500 stipend continue for achieving the Illinois Municipal Clerks Association certificate. Just for a matter of reference, the clerk's salary would go up by $560 per year. I further recommend that the alderman's salary remain the same.
Discussion.
Mayor,
Alderman McClanathan.
thank you. I'd like to note that this has to be set by law, what is it, I think 6 months prior to the next person taking the office. The idea being that you don't want to, for these elected positions such as mayor and city clerk and then alderman, you don't want the individuals who are sitting around the table to be making a determination on their salary at that point. So that's why you see it set for that 4-year term period. There's no recommended change for the alderman and obviously you'll see who's in the seats on those down the road, and then same thing with mayor and the clerk. It sets it out for the 4-year term, so that eliminates any issue of questions of saying, well, they're setting, their salary. It's set well before the election, well before the results are known. And along those lines, though, the no raise for the alderman stipend is consistent with prior practice. The 1% for the position of mayor, not the person of mayor, but the position of mayor, and the position of clerk is also relatively in line. Sometimes it's been less and it's been more. So that's just a little bit of, I guess, history in regards to why it's set now.
Alderman Busker?
Yes, I just wanted to reiterate that, because after the committee of the whole meeting last week, I got a few phone calls. The aldermen are not, I repeat, not getting a raise, even if this goes through. And it's only looking at the mayor and the city clerk to get a 1% raise on that. So I just wanted to make that clear to anyone who might have misunderstood from last week's discussion.
Anything else?
Mayor,
Alderman Ross?
when would this go into effect?
The next election cycle,
Oh,
which would be April, May?
May 1st,
of 2021.
21.
Thank you.
What do we want to do, council?
I'll make a motion to approve this. It's like, just if I could, like the city manager said, it is a $200 increase per year for the position of mayor. The mayor's position is considered part-time, but whether it's this mayor or someone else, I think a fair, objective review of the time they are involved in city business would not be fair to describe it as part-time. I understand the city manager's role is an important role, and he takes care of the day-to-day, but the mayor does a lot of work and is constantly the mayor of Freeport, whether, again, not just this mayor, but whoever is going to precede her or follow her. So that's, I think it's a reasonable increase and a nominal increase at that.
Second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion made by Alderman Borneman, seconded by Alderman Berberay to move ordinance 2020-54 on to the next regularly scheduled meeting. Item number 14 is the adoption of Resolution 2020-48. Madam Clerk, could you please read this?
Resolution approving agreement for 2 5G fiber strands connecting future U.S. cellular 5G poles.
Director Sutman.
Thank you. As discussed at the COW last week, this resolution is an agreement to waive a $2,000 permit fee in exchange for about between 6 and 7 miles of fiber optic cable, 2 strands of that cable. We have the agreement all put together, and nothing has really changed since last week. Any questions?
Mayor?
Alderman McClanathan.
Last week, legal counsel referenced there's some little disparity in regards to the waiver. Now, when I was looking through how it's currently drafted, it says during the term on it, and then if I look at the definition of term, that term says until December 31 of 2040. So theoretically, as drafted, we're waiving that fee anytime it would be applicable for, like, what are the parameters here? You know, how often might we be dealing with this potential waiver? And what is the cost? Is it just a $2,000 fee each time? Whoever wants to handle it.
Without the agreement, each time they had to perform maintenance on these lines they're putting in, it would cost them $2,000. What this agreement does, in part, says you still have to apply for a permit, so we see the documentation and what they're doing and approve it, but they are not required to pay the $2,000 on this specific work. If they go somewhere else in town,
Sure.
that's a different issue.
And follow up, Mayor. Did I hear you correctly at the committee of the whole that you said that it's an approximate value or the cost of the city would have been around $100,000 to do this ourselves on our own lines or something of that nature?
At least, probably a lot more.
Okay, so you're talking, these waivers at only $2,000 a pop, you're gonna, one, if we're just looking at the cost of us to do it, and not looking at all the other benefits we're getting out of this by having those 2 lines, which is probably an astronomical benefit to the city as a whole, it would be a significant amount of maintenance over this 20-year period that they'd have to do just to even equal out that cost. Bottom line, it's a significant benefit to the city at a nominal cost, in your opinion?
Correct.
All right, thank you.
Madam Mayor?
Alderman Meisak.
Do we have any proposed use for the strands?
There's nothing directly in place, so I guess I'll say this carefully. With this agreement for the strands to become our possession, it doesn't cost us anything. We'd have to look at some of the costs associated with connecting this up to a fiber network, the cost of splicing into the fiber. There's gonna be a cost with that because it's work, but no. It's some of the ideas were connecting up various sites for our water and sewer systems, some police uses, but there's nothing set in stone at the moment.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Alderman McClenathan?
I'd move to approve resolution 2020-48.
Second.
If there's no other discussion, we have a motion made by Alderman McClenathan, seconded by Alderman Busker for the approval of the adoption of Resolution 2020-48. Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Parker,
Aye.
Busker,
Aye.
Brashaw,
Aye.
Meissick,
Aye.
Berbere,
Aye.
Borneman,
Aye.
McClanathan,
Aye.
Ross.
Aye.
And the resolution is adopted 8-0.
Thank you. Item number 15 is the adoption of Resolution 2020-49. Could you please read this?
Resolution approving support of community development block grant for Adams Corridor housing rehabilitation.
Thank you. Director Hines.
Thank you. So the city is applying for the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity for a housing rehabilitation community development block grant. This is funded by Title I of the Federal Housing and Community Development Act of 1974 as amended. The resolution to approve the support of the CDBG grant is required as part of the application to solidify support from council. And then the resolution after this to commit local funds is required as well to ensure that council approves the local match. So we intend to apply for the maximum amount of $550,000 and propose to match $25,000 of local funds from the Neighborhood Housing Development Fund. These funds are to be used for a community development project that will include, but will not be limited to, rehabilitation of privately owned single-unit owner-occupied homes, for roof repair replacement, window replacement, accessibility modifications, interior wiring, furnace, central air conditioning, water heater, plumbing repair, sewer lateral replacement, incoming water line replacement, insulation of attic and walls, and repairs to floor and subfloor. The amount of the CDBG funds proposed to be used that will benefit the low to moderate income persons is 100% of the funds that we're requesting. The project area for the CDBG housing rehab program, it's along Adams Avenue. It's from Float Ave down to Armstrong and Empire. It does go off into it juts off into some side streets. That is, so we identified Adams Avenue because of the, it is a main corridor coming into the city. And then some of those side streets that it does go off into were identified based on their location within a census block group. Because as part of our application, you gather data from either a census tract or a block group, and the block groups are smaller and more in line with the size of the project area that we would choose for this type of program. So we did receive over 30 surveys through a combination of mailings and door-to-door surveying over the last several months. We've received well over the minimum, which is 8 surveys. So there are only a few that were not eligible for the program. Eligible households can receive up to $50,000 for improvements. So the funds may not cover every single household, but we could potentially help up to around 15 homes if we got the funding. So staff recommends approval of the resolution approving support of community development block grant funds. And it does align with our strategic plan in the following items: the connected, accessible, and safe communities, responsive and efficient government, and vibrant neighborhoods.
Director Hines, how soon do you anticipate getting this application in? And is there a projected date as far as when it will be approved? And if approved, how soon do you see these being implemented?
Yeah, so this should be into CDBG by the end of this week. It's due by September 30th. but we will have it in by September 30th, likely by the end of this week though. And then for the date to hear back, we're expecting about a few months. And with COVID right now, some of the grant reviewing from different state and federally funded programs have been taking a little bit longer than expected. So it might take, we might not get started on things until January or so, but we're expecting about a few months.
Questions, council?
Madam Mayor?
Mayor?
Alderman Brashaw.
Oh, thank you. Director Hines, this sounds like a wonderful program. I know there were a few people disappointed in our audience here today. How was this demographic area chosen specifically?
Yeah, so we chose the Adams Avenue because it is a main corridor into the city. That is one of the corridors that is identified in the comprehensive plan that was just approved tonight too. Some of the side streets that were chosen, as I just said, those were chosen based on the location in the census block group that they're in. As part of all these, the state and federal grant applications, you have to gather a lot of different data, and you use census tracts or census block group data for these to help clarify, I guess, the project area and get more, not exact, but close information to the project area that we're focusing on. We just kind of use the outlines of some of those block groups.
May I continue? Thank you. I've got a two-part question. The first one is, it said you received over 30 surveys, a few are not eligible. So the first question is, why are they not eligible? The second question, or the second part of that is, because you can only help up to 15 homes, how are you going to select which homes you can and cannot help?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the surveys that were not eligible, it was due to their income level. You have to be under a certain income level to be eligible for this, as well as you have to be an owner-occupied home too. You cannot be we can't use the funds for renters or rental properties. And so for the homes that we could use the funds for, so the 15 is an estimate. We could if each home needed up to $50,000 renovations, then we would get 11 homes. But if they, assuming that not every home needs that maximum amount, then we could get more. The way that we would identify which homes would get the rehab would be based on criteria that we get on those applications. So is a female the head of household? How old are the residents living in there? Are they over the age of 62? What is their income level? So we look at those and prioritize based on their responses to the survey.
Thank you.
Alderman Ross.
My question was answered by all.
Question.
Alderman Burberry.
In those guidelines to determine homes, are those established by us or with the federal government?
Those are established by the federal government.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Go ahead. I was going to say all of the material that we used for the surveys was provided through the CDBG program, so we did not change any of that, or it was all provided to us.
Mayor?
Alderman McClathan.
Thank you. So only those who already responded by the survey are potentially eligible for this. I saw at the public hearing kind of the map in regards to that. So anybody else who's inside that map but did not respond to the survey would not be eligible for this grant. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Well, from what I see in regards to this, as you know, we're doing a significant water, sewer, and road and sidewalk portions, or curb and gutter portions, say, on this same corridor, and actually a broader corridor, but along Adams Avenue in the next year to 2 years on it. So that's going to be a significant investment in regards to that. So to target that neighborhood for this grant makes a whole lot of sense. We've heard repeatedly from individuals at the Social Justice Committee meeting regarding investments in low and moderate income housing in regards to that. And then from what you're telling me, it's owner-occupied that is only eligible for this. So that's again, rental issues are another thing we've heard at the meeting. So this addresses owner-occupied, single family, I think you said on there. And it takes $25,000 of city funds and leverages it 22 times over if we get the grant. So I think it hits a lot of the targets that we're trying to do here as a city in a very cost-effective way. Hopefully we're successful in regards to the application, but applying for it and seeing if we're chosen, I think makes a lot of sense at this time.
Madam
would.
Mayor? Oh,
Go ahead.
sorry.
Alderman Brashaw.
Go ahead.
I was going to make a motion for adoption of Resolution R-2020-49, the resolution approving the support of the Community Development Block Grant.
Second.
Second.
You have something else, Alderman McCain?
No, I was just gonna make the motion, but.
Okay. So we have a motion made by Alderman Brashaw, seconded by Alderman Ross for this approval. Is there any other discussion, council? Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Parker,
Aye.
Busker,
Aye.
Brashaw,
Aye.
Meissick,
Aye.
Berbere,
Aye.
Borneman,
Aye.
McClanathan,
Aye.
and Ross.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted 8-0.
Thank you. That takes us on to item number 16, which is the adoption of Resolution 2020-50.
Resolution committing local funds for community development block grant for Adams Corridor housing rehabilitation.
Director Hines.
I don't have any additional information to add other than that we recommend approving this as well to be able to apply to the grant program.
And that match is $25,000.
Yes.
Madam Mayor,
Alderman Busker.
motion to adopt Resolution 2020-50.
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Busker, seconded by Alderman Ross. Is there any other discussion?
Mayor. I guess the template that was sent over from the state said 20,000 in it, so that's what this ordinance reflects. Is it 25 is the match?
Yes, it's 25.
Okay, so I'll tweak that before it's signed then, just so everyone knows.
Thank you.
So if there's no further discussion, Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Parker,
Aye.
Busker,
Aye.
Brashaw,
Aye.
Meissick,
Aye.
Berbere,
Aye.
Borneman,
Aye.
McClanathan,
Aye.
and Ross.
Aye.
That resolution is adopted 8-0.
Thank you. Item number 17 is the adoption of Resolution 2020-51. Could you please read this?
Resolution adopting land reutilization policy.
Thank you. Manager Bucus.
Thank you, Your Honor. The City Council adopted Chapter 239 of the codified ordinances to allow the manager to dispose of surplus city-owned property with a fair market value of less than $10,000. It is the purpose of this policy that we're discussing at this time to establish a procedure by which unused and marginally used city-owned real property is reviewed for its potential use and for designating unneeded parcels for sale or lease. Additionally, the policy will provide a way for the sale or leasing of city-owned real property. The original draft had been amended to include offers will be made, and this is the new area, to those in good standing with the city in the following order. As it's stated in the policy, we're going to offer any properties that we feel to be surplus to adjoining property owners, and then from there, depending on the property, reaching out from there. Staff's recommending that council adopt the resolution number R 2020-51.
Mayor.
Alderman Ross.
Director, now, that's all properties that are not in the floodplain.
That is correct. This is only for properties that are outside of floodway and floodplain.
Floodway, yeah. Thank you.
Madam Mayor,
Alderman Brashaw.
one of the reasons I made a motion to move this forward before was because I think this is an excellent idea. We have a lot of empty lots next to homes that perhaps they were torn down or burned down at one time, that sometimes the neighboring property owners have maintained those lots. I can say personally, I've maintained several lots that I do not own. I have no inclination to purchase those lots, so I'm not voting for this or pushing this forward to benefit myself in any way or form. But I think it would be nice to have those lots purchased by adjacent homeowners who would then take care of them and take them off the city's list of lots that they must mow at the city's expense. And also, then there'd be a small amount of tax that those then new property owners would be paying on that lot to put these lots back on the tax roll. So that would benefit all the citizens of the city of Freeport. So I am very much in favor of this. Thank you.
Mayor again.
Alderman Ross.
Yes, those lots, as Alderman Bradshaw has mentioned, the tax bill on one of those lots is no more than $40. I've got one. It's a vacant lot. I mean, I bought it, cleaned it up. It cost me about $40, but depending on what side of town you live on too, though. You know, so, you know, the one I have is like $40, so it may be just a little bit more, but still is well worth it, and it makes your yard look a whole lot nicer.
Madam Mayor?
Alderman Brashaw?
Build on what Alderman Ross says, I agree that sometimes the tax base isn't that much, but for people's enjoyment, say they want to put a jungle gym or a kid's swing set or fence it in, or even perhaps build an improvement, of course, with the permit, such as an extra garage or something. You know, it can really increase the quality of some people's lives too. Thank you.
Madam Mayor,
Alderman Busker?
motion to adopt R 2020-51.
Second.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, we have a motion made by Alderman Busker, seconded by Alderman Ross. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Parker?
Aye.
Busker?
Aye.
Brashaw?
Aye.
Meissick?
Aye.
Berberet?
Aye.
Borneman?
Aye.
McClanathan?
Aye.
And Ross.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted 8-0.
Thank you. Item number 18 is the adoption of Resolution 2020-52. Would you please read this?
Resolution authorizing and approving an agreement with Fairgram to provide engineering technical assistance and support for city SCADA system.
Thank you. Director Boyer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Tonight, staff is looking for approval of this resolution to help with the wastewater treatment plant, deal with pop-up problems with the supervisory control and data acquisition system. As many of you may know, the system is about 20 years old right now. There are layers and layers of technology involved, and sometimes we run into problems at the waste treatment plant where we do not have the know-how to solve all of them. So we're asking the City Council to allow us spend up to $25,000 potentially for professional services from Fairgram. Bear in mind, we will not use it all unless we need it, but we want it to be available if we run into some issues that we need to deal with in a time-critical nature.
Questions, Council?
Madam Mayor.
Alderman Meissick.
So the 25,000 needed is to best handle any obstacles that you would encounter, right, with the implementation of the new SCADA system, as I'm understanding?
Essentially, as older parts wear out and we can't find replacements, we can purchase new equipment that needs programming, and in some of these cases, we need expert help to make sure that programming is done correctly so that it interfaces properly with the rest of the system.
Okay. Follow-up?
Sure.
So as I'm understanding, you're talking about different parts of software that may not talk well to one another, so there's some programming that may be involved to do that, and the SCADA system is the one that overall is driving it, or that you can have reporting features and so forth at your disposal?
Absolutely. So the SCADA system is what controls all the functions within a wastewater plant. It comprises of, at the Hancock facility, there's one large panel with most of the equipment inside to control the various functions in the wastewater plant. This is what gives us access via, computer in the control room, and allows us to control the sewer plant, through a computer. There's a number of components in there that have their own programming. It's not just the software on the computer. It's programming within the controls themselves of PLCs and so forth. And once in a while, we run into an issue where we can replace an old piece of equipment, but we may not have the expertise to program that new piece of equipment to make sure everything talks to one another properly.
Last follow-up. And the period of time that's covered for this ask of 25,000?
Till the end of the year.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Alderman Brashaw.
Thank you. Director, is this an electrical engineering thing or a computer engineering thing that they would be providing for us?
It would be guidance on if we had to replace various components in the SCADA system, we could pull from them as far as their knowledge, well of knowledge, and essentially that.
A follow-up? So they have a lot of experience with the SCADA systems?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That answers my question.
Alderman Parker?
Make a motion to approve this.
Second.
There's no further discussion. We have a motion on the floor made by Alderman Parker, seconded by Alderman Busker to adopt Resolution 2020-52. Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Parker, excuse
Aye.
me. Busker.
Aye.
Brashaw.
Aye.
Meissick.
Aye.
Berbere.
Aye.
Borneman.
Aye.
McClanathan.
Aye.
And Ross.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted 8-0.
Item number 19 is the adoption of Resolution 2020-53. Could you please read this?
Resolution authorizing and approving an agreement with Fairgram to provide engineering technical assistance and support for sanitary sewer system inflow and infiltration, or I&I, monitoring, data collection, and data analyzation.
Thank you. Director Boyer.
Thank you again, Madam Mayor. Currently, the Hancock plant experiences large storm surges in the form of inflow and infiltration. This complicates things pretty substantially. We've got, number one, additional costs related to treatment of essentially stormwater. Two, we've got one of the regulatory things that's very concerning is the combined sewer overflow potential. So if we get enough rain, there is a potential there where we will have to discharge onto this, without going through the wastewater treatment plant. This has been an ongoing problem. In the recent storm, we saw a 12 million gallon per day rate increase within 20 minutes, which indicates that we have a pretty substantial I&I problem. Currently, the city owns more than 10 flow meters, but we lack the staff to install, maintain, and take readings from those to collect appropriate data so that we can then identify where in the system that inflow is coming from. So I'm proposing that, or staff is proposing that we enlist Fairgram to aid the city with installing and maintaining those flow meters so that we can identify the areas the areas that are most susceptible to I&I. This will help us identify places where we can repair and make better decisions moving forward as far as collection system relining projects and manhole relining projects. As we're coming into phase one of the facilities plan, the amount of flow coming into the plan is a factor in terms of how large we design everything. So anything we can do to reduce our I&I issue will enable us to save money long-term in terms of treatment costs and also design and construction of future capacity. So that's what I've got here for that.
Madam Mayor.
Alderman Meissick.
So does this ask for 65,000 include phases 1 and 2 and as complete? So I see it listed out as scope of services on I believe it's page 3 of the so it's talking about 7 to 10 flow meters in basins 1, 2, and 3, Hancock, and then it also has an additional phase. Is there a requirement to complete phase 1 before phase 2? It all is included in this in this quote?
That is true, and it is what we're trying to get done this year. We may not use it all this year, but we're looking at that amount of money will enable us to start the first echelon, getting the meters installed, taking readings, and then doing some analysis, and then moving up within the collection shed.
Mayor, unless you're done.
Alderman Ross.
Yes, Director. Now, will they be placed at the sewer plant or various parts of the city?
Well, it'll start at some of the large interceptors and then move up into the collection system wherever we're seeing those large storm flows come in. So as soon as we can get these things in, we can start taking data, analyzing it, and then chasing it down and figuring out where our largest I&I problems exist.
Okay, follow up, Mayor. Director, when you say large interceptor, do you have any idea where these, I know you would have a idea where they at.
Sure.
But any street location where these interceptors are at this time?
Well, we've noticed some crossover between Storm and Sanitary in the area of Sherman. We're not exactly sure where. That's one area that we've looked at. But this is going to give us the information we need to then further go in and do inspections of the various parts of the collection system where we're experiencing the most flow during storm events.
Okay, thank you, Derek.
Mayor?
Alderman McClathan.
Thank you. The I&I issue is something that's been brought up before, and you said we've got these 10 flow meters already in place. Have we had anybody at the staff level over the past few years that's been able to analyze this, or is it just you've been aware of the issue and this is your attempt to get a jump start on tackling it?
We have these flow meters, but because of lack of staff, we were not able to continue using them. So essentially what I want to do is see these reinstalled so that we're able to collect data every time we start getting a rainstorm event.
And then you, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's fine.
And then you're going to take that data and then you're going to come back to us, or, well, to the extent you need to. To the extent you're going to be able to then address some of those issues, you'll be able to go out and use this data to go out and address those issues. And then if you need some broader plan and things of that nature, that'll be able to more accurately have a plan of action to bring back to the council.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Alderman Brashaw.
Thank you. Well, I know at least 10 years back with Engineer Ehrig, we were talking about I&I problems and flooding the water treatment plant during storm surges. So this is something that's been going on for many, many years. I'm in support of this, and I was glad that Alderman Misick asked for the term that the $65,000 covered, and you assuring us it's through phase 1 and 2 as completed. I guess I wanted to ask you what the cost of I&I in your opinion would be, because I know it costs us to treat the water that comes through, all that excess water. There's also a cost of our equipment, because our equipment that processes that and the chemicals that go into to process it. So there is a huge cost for all those extra gallons of water. So paying the $65,000, some of that cost is offset, if not in its entirety, with the cost of treating that water. Am I correct, or am I on the right track there?
Yes, I mean, depending on what we find and where it is, and if when we're able to repair it and so forth, this is an investment that comes back to you in terms of reduced treatment costs over the period, over, I don't know, 20 or 40 years, whatever it might be. But I don't want to be too hopeful, because I see it as a benefit in terms of if we're able to find our worst 80% or even our worst 30%, quite honestly, that's going to impact our design facility upgrades and the costs of construction and design to handle the added, the reduced capacity. So right now we have to plan everything for a surge flow of up to 18 million gallons, 20 million gallons, and almost all of that is I&I. We're putting out in the system around 3 million gallons a day in terms of water through meters, but yet we see a sustained flow of 5 million, and then during storm we see up to 17 million, and that's not an absurdly high or large storm. That's just a standard storm. So so number one, it's going to reduce our ability, or it's going to reduce the number of combined sewer overflows, which the EPA does not want to see, and is part of the reason why we're on number one priority in the state. Number two, it also indicates to the EPA that we're doing what we need to in terms of our industrial housekeeping, and we're doing our homework. We know how to deploy our resources because we're able to show them and show ourselves that we're staying on top of the contributing factors that impact the inflow. And then it also is a public safety issue, because if you have combined sewer overflows, you have a chance for people to come in contact with untreated wastewater. So.
Thank you very much for that explanation. It answered all my questions and then some. With that, I would like to make a motion for adoption of Resolution R-2020-53.
Second.
If there's no further discussion, we have a motion made by Alderman Brashaw, seconded by Alderman Misick. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Parker,
Aye.
Busker,
Aye.
Brashaw,
Aye.
Meissick,
Aye.
Berbere,
Aye.
Borneman,
Aye.
McClanathan,
Aye.
and Ross.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted 8-0.
Item number 20 is the adoption of Resolution 2020-54. Could you please read this?
Resolution of support and commitment of local funds for community development block grant for Clinton Avenue and Clinton Place.
Thank you. And again, Director Boyer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So staff is seeking approval of this resolution. Essentially, what happened with the Clinton Place and Clinton Street originally was part of the Adams Street project. A grant opportunity became available through the Community Development Block Grant, and it was desired that it would be best to spin this project off on its own so that we could capture those grant funds. It does commit local funds up to an amount of $70,000, but the total funds to be requested is $550,000. It would replace 2,000 feet of water main, four fire hydrants. It would replace 19 residential services and replace 2,000 square yards of pavement on East Clinton Street and Clinton Place. So, do I have any questions on that?
Madam Mayor?
Alderman Bradshaw.
Thank you. Is there any cost to applying for this block grant?
I believe it's the, I'm not able to answer that question right now. Perhaps? Okay.
Thank you. For the listening public, the engineer on hand here, Adam Holder? Yeah, thank you. Said that there was a cost for $5,500 to apply for this that we'd already approved, and I'm sorry, we just go through thousands of things and I forget. And then with the local match of $70,000 from the city water account, if we are granted, or if we win the grant, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. I appreciate your information, and I wasn't trying to be mouthy with the last one. I said when you gave me additional information, I liked the additional information. So if there's anything else you can tell us about this, it sounds really good.
My approach here is that all this is going to do is add more funds to if you're going to look at Clinton Place as part of the Adams Street project, this essentially brings in $550,000 additional dollars that we did not have. So, my advice is to move forward and approve the resolution.
Mayor?
Alderman Ross.
Director, would there be any cost to the residents over there?
No additional costs.
No additional cost?
Not to the residents, no.
No, okay. For the residential services or anything?
No, that'll be part of this project.
Okay.
It's I think approximately 330,000 that's going directly toward people in need in terms of economic mobility and that.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Mayor,
Alderman Busker.
I know there's at least one property over there on Clinton Place that is still on septic. Would that tie any of those properties over there that would be still on septic into the city sewer?
We would definitely look into doing that. Would love to see that tied in, yeah, absolutely. I don't know if we've got to the point with this to say specifically, but I believe, yes, we would make a point to make everyone connected.
Right. Follow up. Make a motion to approve resolution 54.
Second.
Madam Mayor,
Alderman Meissick.
just one last question on this as well. Does, in all of the infrastructure improvements on this, it's listing water, sanitary, storm upgrades, and so forth. So would there be curb updates done at the same time?
I believe it depends on where that water main is located, but I can get back with more information. Adam, do you want to speak to that?
Okay, thank you.
Mayor?
Alderman McClanathan.
Thank you. Did you say that these roads were initially included in the Adams Street corridor project that we're doing?
Yes.
Okay, so which we're spending, or will be spending multiple millions on doing over the next couple of years. You're taking a chunk off of this. and given us the opportunity potentially for $70,000 to get $550,000 of that paid for. Basically, just another way that you're working to try to stretch these dollars on the local dollars on the project.
Yes, and it's also the way Fairground's adding value here too. You know,
Yeah,
helping
no,
us.
I appreciate you guys. I mean, we've all talked about how we've got, a couple $100 million of infrastructure projects, so every time you can, get $500,000 or so of it here and there covered by a grant, it stretches that further, so, appreciate your diligence here.
Mayor,
Alderman Ross?
Director, I just want to sit here and thank you for the time you've been here, for all the work you're doing. I have to say, you're doing a great job.
Thank you, Alderman.
If there's no further discussion, we have a motion made by Alderman Busker, seconded by Alderman Ross for the adoption of Resolution 2020-54. Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Parker?
Aye.
Busker?
Aye.
Brashaw?
Aye.
Meissick?
Aye.
Berberay?
Aye.
Borneman?
Aye.
McLanathan?
Aye.
And Ross.
All right.
The resolution passes 8-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 21 is the adoption of Resolution 2020-55. Could you please read this?
Resolution authorizing and approving an agreement with Fairgram to provide engineering and environmental services related to a downtown demolition project of 11 and 15 West Stevenson Street.
Thank you. Manager Bucus.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Your Honor. There are currently 2 buildings in downtown that have been condemned and need to be raised. The properties are located at 15 West Stevenson and 11 West Stevenson. These properties need to be inspected for possible asbestos by a licensed contractor, and plans and specifications need to be written for their demolition. In addition, plans for structural support or coating for the adjacent building will also need to be made. Staff recommends that the City Council adopt Resolution Number R 2020-55 and approve a contract with Firm Grant to develop the plans and specifications for the demolition of 11 and 15 West Stevenson Street, perform the asbestos inspection, and prepare the bid advertisement. The cost of the service is $23,000. Funds for this service will come from the city's Downtown Revolving Loan Fund.
Questions, Council?
Mayor,
Alderman Ross.
what did these, City Manager Bucus, what were the name of these properties before?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
The name of the properties, what did it used to be?
One is a bed bookstore and games. The other one is Hair Wave.
Other ones what now?
Hair Wave.
Hair
It's a
Oh,
salon.
yeah,
Wave
yeah,
Salon.
I know which one you're speaking of. Yeah, thank you.
Mayor?
Alderman McLanathan.
Thank you. I mean, obviously, you can see some of the issues just, from an untrained eye. If you're going on it, have these properties fenced off for a while. What did we have in the way of reports and opinions that led to the condemnation finding? And that's one. And then 2, who currently has ownership of these properties? And then also who provided the professional opinions that, again, led to the finding that condemned, and tangentially on that, what went into the analysis that there are no other feasible options other than demolition at this time.
The 8-bed book property, there was a structural inspection by Firm Grant for us, as well as our building inspector. And for the Hair Wave, it was our building inspector that did the inspection.
And ownership of both of those have been quit claims to the city?
Not yet. The Hair Wave has been, we have a contract with him to deed it over to us, but there's a minor issue with a lien that we want to have cleared up first. And with the Abet Books, there's also a lien on that property that we're working with the property owners to try to get that cleared up before we take possession of them.
Follow-up, Mayor? And what went into the analysis of, because we're calling it a downtown demolition project at this time, and you said they've been condemned, so what were the factors that were analyzed that said, well, there needs to be demolition and can't be, rehab, repurposed, anything of that nature?
I believe the Abet Book building is assessed at $11,000, And the bricks that are falling from it, to have them retuck pointed and fixed, we were estimating was gonna cost over $200,000.
That was just for exterior?
That's just exterior. It's nothing to do with the interior work that needs to be done. And same thing with Wave, their front of their buildings, part of their facade starting to come down. And there was a beam that basically joins the front of both buildings. So if one comes down, possibly the other one's going to come down with it. So that's what we're trying to get both of them at the same time and do the demolition all at once.
Follow up, Mayor? Now, on the other side of that, the lot, you know, where the prior building was taken down, was it on the pizza store that actually had adjoining, like the walls were adjoined? Whereas on a bet, I think there was a space in between a bet and then the property that came down? Is that accurate for those who were around at that point? I know you had the block of buildings. One of them was connected to the neighboring property and the other one wasn't connected to the neighboring property. Memory serves that it was a bet that wasn't connected, whereas the one next to the pizza one was, which is why we had all those bars and everything in that place. Is that an accurate recollection of where?
I believe you are correct that the one with Joe's Pizza was a joining wall,
Okay.
a shared wall, and that's why we put the coating on it.
Where I'm going with that is, as part of these services, obviously it's doing the asbestos inspection and bid preparation, things of that nature. One of those buildings it looks like it's adjoins to, the Waves one looks like it's adjoins to the next one, which is the Stevenson Market old building. Is part of their services analyzing, you know, that portion, the feasibility of it, the difficulties of it?
Yes, and that's also going to be in the bid specs to put a covering over it like we did with the old City Hall lot, with the building that was adjacent to the City Hall, rather than what we did at Joe's and putting a coating on it.
Follow up, Mayor. And those rehabilitation purposes, were they well outside of the wherewithal, I suppose, of the owners before they entertained quit claiming it over to us?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite.
Were the repairs needed, just even the exterior ones, did the cost of that exceed the financial wherewithal or the ability of the owners that currently had it prior to contemplating quit claiming to us?
That is correct, yes.
Look, turning to the funding source, obviously, it's not the most optimal use of the revolving loan fund, but we've also had some other uses of it, of some grants and some loans. I think particularly the Mahoney Building was a loan in regards to that. Do you know what the approximate balance is of that fund at this time?
A little over $800,000. And when we did the program, it was for demolition purposes as well. So it could have been a private developer that came in and demolished it just to get the site prepared for redevelopment.
Sure. I'm not saying it's not a proper use. Just saying, you know, obviously we don't want to have it all in demo unless we have, you know, some repurposed things of that nature.
Right.
But we have a significant amount of funds where this isn't going to jeopardize the remaining life and viability of that fund if we use these funds for this purpose.
That's correct. We'll still have money left in it.
Follow, Mayor.
Alderman McGlathan.
What's our time frame here?
We would like to move as quickly as possible on this because of the potential liability of one wall coming down. That's why we're trying to get the property owners to move as quickly as they can to try to get those liens off those properties.
Follow, Mayor. And we won't take title until that issue of those
Well,
liens has
we
been
could,
resolved.
but then the properties,
Well, right. So it's your position, you're not going to proceed going forward on that until
Right.
those have been resolved?
right,
Okay. To limit the exposure of the city to that?
right. One of the buildings did have another lien on it, and the bank is willing to forego the lien. The other property has a bigger lien on it, and as of right now, I'm not sure. There was some contact made with the bank. Unfortunately, it's not a Freeport bank, and so there's some disconnect because there's no commitment to the community here because they're not from here. So
Okay.
we're trying to work those issues out right now.
Alderman Ross.
Manager Bucher, not to double talk, but I understand what you just said, but in no way we will be responsible for the liens on the property?
I would not say that.
Okay. That's it.
The one lien that's still outstanding on one of the buildings it's only it's a $533.31 lien that the Department of Revenue has put on the property. We're hoping that, they should be able to take care of that.
Okay. And then you said there was another one a little bit more than that.
Yes. A lot more.
So that's the one where, what kind of responsibility is the owner of the property holding right now? If you know.
I'm not sure. I know what you mean by responsibility.
Oh, okay. As for the lien.
Okay, they're responsible for liens, and as far as I know, they're still trying to work with the bank to see if they can't remove it. And if the bank won't, then we're going to step in and see what we could do to try to remove that lien.
Yeah, for the safety of the community.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Alderman McClanathan.
do you have the sufficient authorizations to be able to go ahead and do this work prior to us having ownership of it? Or have the owners indicated they will provide said authorization?
Well, they realize that they don't want the buildings because it's a liability on their part. And matter of fact, they'd sign them over right now today to us. And I'm refusing to take them until we know we've got a halfway decent title on it.
Right. So in the meantime, though, I assume you're wanting to do some of this asbestos and bid preparation work in regards to it, and I assume it's going to require access to the property.
Right.
You've got sufficient authorization from these entries and releases and things of that nature to go
Yes,
forward? All
we
right.
do for the asbestos inspection, because I think that's scheduled for next week.
Good.
No, I think it's scheduled for tomorrow. Yeah.
Madam Mayor,
Alderman
I'd
Brashaw.
like to make a motion to move this, or to adopt resolution R-2020-55.
Second it.
Any further discussion, council? Seeing none, we have a motion made by Alderman Brashaw, seconded by Alderman Ross. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Parker,
Aye.
Busker,
Aye.
Brashaw,
Aye.
Meissick,
Aye.
Berberet,
Aye.
Borneman,
Aye.
McClanathan,
Aye.
and Ross.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted 8-0.
Item number 22 is a motion to approve a bid from bid opening from September 3rd concerning the Phase 2 water main improvements. Director Kopansky.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. In May of 2018, City Manager, Director, and myself had a presentation on a 5-year capital plan budget and some of the projects that we were looking to go and do, and this one here in particular, is water main replacement in certain areas where we've had numerous water main breaks with the soon-to-be construction of the well house. We're looking to go and install a feeder line from the plant out to service the area. There's also some projects that we are looking to go and do to loop the system to remove dead ends. So basically, we had surveying take place during 2018, engineering during 2019, and then per submittals of paperwork to obtain permits to IEPA. With this COVID situation, things came back. We then were able to go and put the package out for bid. Bids were opened on Thursday, September 3rd. There were 4 bidders that submitted their bids, and Fisher Excavating out of Freeport submitted a bid in the amount of $966,051.50. What will be taking place with this construction project will be installation and or replacement of 2,500 feet of 6-inch water main, 2,600 feet of 8-inch water main, and 3,800 feet of 12-inch water main. We're going to remove 6 fire hydrants and install 14 more. With looping the system, we look to go and have better fire flow and provide protection to our residents in the event if there's a main break or if there's a fire taking place, so we're not pulling water just from one area. That will also go and provide better water quality. So before, we're looking to go and get approval to accept these bids, so then the paperwork can go to IEPA for their approval. And we look for construction to start to take place before the end of the year.
Mayor.
Alderman Ross.
Director, can you tell me what the location of this is, where this is located at in the city of Freeport?
Oh, okay. Let's see. There's basically 2,900 feet along Cleveland from Burchard to Locust. On Jefferson and Monroe, it's basically 700 feet there from a little bit north of Cleveland to west, right to west. Santa Fe from Cortez down to the end of the line and onto Greenfield. That will help with looping the system, since that area there from Cortez to the cul-de-sac has had numerous breaks roughly in the last 3 years. There's also along the south end near the car dealerships, Farm and Fleet, Casey's, some looping there to go and take place, to go and provide better flow to the south end of town, where there's the industrial and then the commercial businesses, the retail. A little bit along South Street, close to Galena, there was a main break a number of years ago, and what had happened was that it was decided to shut it off and partially abandon it because it was too deep, because the gas pipeline is over there. So that's going to be taken care of, and then there's 300 feet over on Kiwanis, a little bit over on Lawn Place and Sylvan Place.
Okay. Well, that, follow up, Mayor. Well, that should help out tremendously with the main breaks. We've been having considerably a lot of those, so
Absolutely.
replacing those should help out, like I said, tremendously.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Alderman Brashaw.
Thank you. Director, I see that the city has secured an IEPA loan with a term of 20 years. What is the term of that loan and, the specifics of that loan, and is any of that loan forgivable like some of the IEPA loans?
Let's see, yes, some of that's forgivable, and I don't exactly remember, but I believe it may be a 1.1 or 1.2% interest rate. 1.0, and forgiveness of about $400,000.
Thank you for that answer.
Madam Mayor.
Alderman Busker.
Motion to approve the bid opening.
Second.
I'll second.
Brashaw's fine.
Is there any other discussion, council?
Mayor?
Alderman McClanahan.
Thank you. I appreciate you bringing this forward. It's part of, like you said, the 5-year capital plan. It's been forecast as to where we're going to spend in these funds on. You made some adjustments as needed based on what were some of the significant amounts of breaks we were having here. And you're also leveraging the forgivable loan portion of it to, again, stretch our dollars. So folks ask, where our capital improvement dollar is going on it. This is Exhibit A as to where at least $2 million worth of that's going on here. So thanks for putting this work together. It's good to see the lowest responsible bidder, and appreciate that it's a local firm too. And it's nice when that works out as well. So thanks for everyone's work on this.
If there's no further discussion, we have a motion on the floor made by Alderman Busker, seconded by Alderman Brashaw, to approve the bid. Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Parker.
Aye.
Busker.
Aye.
Brashaw.
Aye.
Meissick.
Aye.
Berberet.
Aye.
Borneman.
Aye.
McClanathan.
Aye.
And Ross.
Aye.
Motion is passed 8-0.
Thank you. Item number 23 is a motion to approve the bid that was opened on September 11th concerning the demolition of asbestos abatement on 2 locations. Director Hines.
Thank you. The city acquired 9 West Dexter and 614 South Adams through quitclaim deeds in 2019. Both properties were condemned in 2018. Both properties at this point are beyond repair, and a demo bid was released in August for opening on September 11th of 2020. we received 4 bids from Anthem Excavation, JMP Trucking, Northern Illinois Services, and Fisher Excavating. The two lowest bidders were JMP Trucking for 614 South Adams at $7,700, and then Northern Illinois Services for 9 West Dexter at $21,250, for a total of $28,950. The funds for the demolition and asbestos abatement services will come from the Neighborhood Housing Development Fund. Based on the bids that we received, staff recommends awarding the demolition and asbestos abatement services to Northern Illinois Services for 9 West Dexter. Again, that's $21,250. And then JMP Trucking for 614 South Adams for $7,700. So that's a total of $28,950 for both properties. NIS and JMP were the lowest bidders for each of those properties respectively. They met the bid criteria and they're in good standing with the city. So this meets the strategic plan items, connected, accessible, and safe communities, responsive, efficient government, and vibrant neighborhoods.
Madam Mayor,
Alderman Misick.
what's the proposed timeline for these demos?
Yes, I'm sorry I didn't write that down, but I believe I had set the demolition services to be completed by the end of the year, and then the regreening to be done by April of next year.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Alderman Brashaw.
Thank you. Director Hines, I have a silly question. I noticed that there's such a disparity in the amounts that it costs to tear them down. I'm assuming that 9 West Dexter, which is costing us, will potentially cost us $21,250 to tear down, is the larger building, or maybe perhaps brick or something?
Yeah, it is bigger, and then there was asbestos found in 9 West Dexter. There wasn't any found at 614 South Adams, so there's more work to be done there before demolition.
One more follow-up, Mayor. Thank you. I just want to commend you for cherry picking these. A few administrations ago, or maybe one administration ago, we had a few problems with being allowed to have our community development director ask them to cherry pick bids. We were always forced to go with the group bidder that had the potential less price. And now we do save the city substantial amounts of money. I realize it's more work for you to go with 2 different bidders, but we do appreciate your work with us. So thank you. With that, I'd like to make a motion to accept this bid.
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Brashaw, seconded by Alderman Ross, to approve the bids as stated. Any further discussion, council? Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Parker,
Aye.
Busker,
Aye.
Brashaw,
Aye.
Misick,
Aye.
Berberet,
Aye.
Borneman,
Aye.
McClanathan,
Aye.
and Ross.
Aye.
The motion passes 8-0.
We will move on to item number 24, which is department head reports. Finance. Okay, thank you. Community development.
Get to talk a lot tonight. So one thing that we had, the city manager and I had done last week was had a conversation with IEMA and FEMA regarding the pre-disaster mitigation grant. I want to make it clear that there has not been a notice of award yet, but IEMA and FEMA are continuing to move forward with our review. So according to FEMA, the project will be reviewed under the national, and this is a pre-disaster mitigation grant that we have applied to through FEMA. So the project will be reviewed under the National Environmental Policy Act and a variety of other environmental laws and executive orders. Executive Order 12898 requires public engagement and review on federal actions that may have the potential to disproportionately affect minority populations and low-income populations. During this phase of the review, FEMA will be reaching out to the community and residents and will be soliciting feedback on the proposed project. The review is intended to ensure that all opinions are heard and the best possible solution may be achieved for the public. the communication will be coming from FEMA, possibly through a third-party contractor. I believe they're working with a company called CDM or CBM Smith. But FEMA they may end up hosting a virtual meeting, or they may just send mailers to request public comment back to them. So we did send out a mailer giving residents who signed up for the pre-disaster mitigation grant this information. And I just want to remind them that once they do get this information, which it might come out in the next month, it wasn't entirely clear, we encourage you to give public comment and just respond to the mailer or however the information comes in from FEMA.
Mayor?
Alderman Ross?
Yes. Director, I'd like to advise you that, yes, thank you for sending out the update letter. It came in mail today. So if I got mine, I'm quite sure everybody else got theirs. So thank you for keeping everybody informed on of the update, on the update of the flood mitigation. Thank
Yep.
you.
Yep.
Mayor?
Are there any other questions?
Alderman McClathan?
Thank you. Thank you, Director. Thanks for the update on the PDMG grants there. Going back to the demolition portion that you've discussed, from what I recall under prior meetings, you said there's still another additional handful of buildings that I think you were looking to put out to bid here before the end of the year. Are you still on track for that?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
Thank you, Director.
Thank you.
Public Works?
Just a short one tonight. Thank you, Your Honor. We're continuing to move forward on Ottawa and Bogus. We should be complete midweek this week. Our intention is to do some work on Locust between Broadway and Lincoln to mill and overlay that, and then we'll be looking at Highland Drive and also South Demeter Drive. So we are complete at the Art Plaza, so we're finished with that. So that's all I have for you tonight.
Thank you. And Fire Department?
Good evening, all. Madam Mayor, Manager Bucus, Alderman. Just going to give you some updates from the week. Chief Liggett will be back. Thank you. Actually, it hasn't been too bad. All the guys over there have been great. He's returning Sunday evening, September 27th. In his absence, our department's continued to be busy, and we continue with our efforts towards recruitment and building our 3-year candidate list. 4 open house events have been scheduled. The first occurred on September 9th. We saw 6 potential candidates. Our next events are scheduled for next Thursday, Thursday, October 1st from 9 a.m. to 11. This will be followed by events on Saturday, October 10th from 10 a.m. to noon, and the final event on Wednesday, October 21st from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. I'm supposed to make sure I get this out there. Freeport Fire will be taking applications for all interested individuals from October 1st through the 30th of 2020. Applications and information packets with the minimum requirements will be available at Central Fire Station at 1650 South Walnut Avenue here in Freeport, or at www.cityoffreeport.org. Additionally, to piggyback on that, this past Sunday, I was fortunate enough to be able to share our recruitment message with about 40 to 50 members over at our city's National Guard unit. It was truly an honor for me to address them, and our hopes are that we can stir up some interest with some of the kind of talent and exceptionalism that they have going on over there that can benefit our department in the future. Coming up, October is going to be Fire Prevention Month, and that's right around the corner, and with it, fire safety programs in our public and private schools. This year, COVID has presented our department with some challenges in presenting our messages out to the kid. This is a factor that's happening throughout the state and nationally as well, as we like to get in and get hands-on with the kids.
And to meet that challenge, we will this year be experimenting with an e-based type learning through the National Fire Protection Association and their Sparky's Schoolhouse online web learning. Our hopes are that this program will help offer our students and teachers some free, fun, and really high quality resources and lessons planned to assist us with that mission of educating our youth in fire safety. Looking forward, next Monday, September 28th, we will welcome a new hire to our department. Uriel Cantu is 34 years old, and he will be coming to us from Melrose Park. So his first day will be next Monday. 1 week later, we will welcome a second new hire, a gentleman by the name of Dylan Oberly. He is 23 years old, and he comes to us from just up the road in Lena. Both Uriel and Dylan are scheduled to be sworn in at the October 5th council meeting, and we will also make some history on that evening, as it will be a great honor for us to promote firefighter and paramedic Hillary Brocious to the position of lieutenant, making her the first female in our department's history to do so, and for our city, an excellent thing. Lastly, I'd like to recognize 2 individuals from our department who have and are returning from their assignments fighting fires out in the state of California and Oregon. District Chief Kurt Timmer and firefighter paramedic Mark Honorbaum spent time using their technical skills as certified wildland firefighters and were involved in helping control some of the many fires claiming our nation's westernmost states. The fire they were providing relief to specifically were the Cold Creek and August Complex fires, and they have consumed over 700,000 acres of forest and timber out in that area and threatened thousands of homesteads in rural California and Oregon. District Chief Timmer was in fact deployed twice in the past 2 months, as he most recently was recalled to train members of Oregon's National Guard in assisting with these blazes. They are 2 quality individuals. We are very fortunate to have them. They utilize their own time through their paid leave, so their vacation time and their ability to trade time to make this happen, to help others somewhere else, to take their talents out there. It doesn't cost our city anything, and the wealth of the experience that we get and we give is really something. So that's our news for the week. Anything from you guys?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Deputy Chief, thank you.
Thanks.
Police.
I just want to report, part of the report came out on, at the social justice meeting, but on the week of, right before September 11th, we were notified that the city was going to receive approximately just under $450,000 from the Office of Violence Against Women to continue our partnership with Voices to combat domestic violence and sexual assault here in Freeport. So we're going to be able to continue that partnership on and hopefully grow that program a little more the next 3 years. We also have 3 new officers that are going to be coming on. They're going to be sworn in on October 7th. And their academy date, they'll start in the academy on October 11th. So those are to replace some of the people that have retired and are leaving. With the hiring of those new individuals, we too will be opening up our application process, and we'll be taking those applications through the end of October. So I guess that's just my challenge to the city council and everybody listening is to help the department find quality individuals that can change the way our department is made up and the way it looks, and to rebuild the department for the future and continue to create the great service that we can provide.
Thank you, Chief. Water and sewer. IT? Thank you. And library.
Thank you, Mayor Miller. As you can see tonight, I'll be spending a little bit more time with you. I have the Summer Reading Club report. This summer was the most unique summer. The library was actually closed for the first 3 out of the 8 weeks of the summer reading program. So with that in mind, we were still able to hit some pretty good numbers. We typically average between 600 and 800, depending on the summer, for the number of children registered. And this year, we still had 512 kids registered for summer reading. We were able to get some of those numbers because our youth services librarian continued to work with any of the open daycare facilities, where she didn't necessarily go into the facility, but she would hand deliver their reading logs, any of the activity kits, as well as any of the prizes or anything that they had achieved throughout the summer, which is really good. So we were able to maintain that. We still had 16 teenagers, which is great. Woohoo! Teens are the hardest demographic. And 220 adults participate. We had 38% of all of those completed the program. We did an online version this year that, if you remember, I talked about it. It was our first year being able to attempt to try to do something like that. And what we learned is that our readers really like to use paper logs. So we, people that started using it said it was great, but it was just easier and more interactive for the kids to just fill out paper. So we'll see what we decide to do for next summer. So we had to, as I mentioned earlier, get a little bit creative in some of the things that we were doing. So every week we gave out over 50 kits. Sometimes those went pretty quickly. I know there were a couple of weeks that we gave out over 100 kits. And those were activities that were either learning activities or a craft kit. So over the course of the 8 weeks, we gave over 400, but I bet we probably gave between 500 and 600 different kits out, which is pretty good. And we did, for programming, normally we can host events that will engage between 75 and 150 different people coming to the library for that event. And obviously that was something we also could not do. So we decided that we would try to get some programming online. So we did Zoom story time, and we had 84 kids throughout the 8 weeks attend on Zoom as well, and that was probably about 30 different families. We also started and are continuing to do Thursday afternoon project videos, and that's our youth services librarian, and she does all kinds of different program, and they're educational. And this week she's actually doing how to make a rubber egg, which is you just put the egg in vinegar. So if you're interested, that one will be on Thursday. But for the 8 weeks that we did that one, we had 3,705 views for those. The most popular ones were make your own puffy paint and make your own lava lamp. So those were fun. And we consistently had a 40% increase in our digital checkouts, which are ebooks and our e-audiobooks, with over 1,500 total checkouts in an 8-week period, which in June, that was 50% of our circulation, which is astronomical. It's never 50% of our circulation. So all things considered, we did a pretty good job. I just hit some of the main points, things that you might be interested in. Is there anything that you have questions on?
Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you.
And Manager Bucus.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just want to kind of give you an update on the 2020 bond issue that we're in the process of going through. In talking to our consultants on the issue, it looks like we were able to decrease the stabilization fund from $1.5 million to $1 million. So that's going to be less of a borrowing. We're looking at going out for pricing on October 1st. That'll be the final interest rate that will be determined, and a closing on October 15th. We're scheduling a conference call for September 30th to talk about the interest rates and what the current yields are. Right now, they're about 3%, but after the market today, they went down again. So we're looking at somewhere between, around 2.9, 2.95 probably. So it'll be a little bit higher than we talked about a few weeks ago, but there again, it could drop again. On October 1st, we'll start pricing the bonds and interest rates and finalizing what we're looking at. And then, like I said, on October 15th, we'll close on those bonds. We did have a rate hearing with the Standard & Poor's Global, and Standard & Poor's Global rating assigned our proposed issue an A rating. And they also, at the same time, reaffirmed our A rating for all our other outstanding debt with the outlook as stable. The A rating further reflects their view of Freeport, that we have a very weak economy with significant population decline, but we have strong management with good financial policies and practices under their financial management assessment criteria. They also say we had very strong budgetary flexibility, very strong liquidity, very weak debt and contingent liability position, and they thought we had a strong institutional framework score as well. As far as being upgraded, they basically said it's unlikely they could raise our rating without considerable improvements to the city's economy and significant growth in our tax base. And they're looking for stronger incomes and some type of stabilization in our population as well, as it's been declining over the last 7 years. I believe that kind of highlights what Standard & Poor's had to say. I was very glad because I thought we could maintain our A rating. I did not think they would boost it based on all that's happening in the state of Illinois today and in the world as far as the financial situation. So, and that's all I have to report tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I just have a couple of community service announcements. There are 2 more free COVID testings this week, tomorrow and Wednesday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Highland Community College, lot number C. There's no appointments that are needed. You do have to bring a valid ID and wear a mask. You should get the results within 4 to 7 days. And this is for a test only if you currently have COVID. It will not show if you've had it in the past. So I'd just like to say thank you to the Health Department for partnering with the EMA and the Illinois Department of Public Health and the Highland Community College. And for those of you that are looking for a place to get flu shots this year, Burchard Hills is having 2 events. One is Wednesday from 3 to 6 and Saturday from 9 to noon. And then also, not this coming Friday, but the next Friday, which is already October 2nd, will be the last food truck frenzy of the year in the municipal lot. This has been a very well-received way to support some various vendors. So if you'd like to make yourself available for that. And then we'll move on to new business. Alderman Parker?
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Thank you. Alderman Busker?
Nothing this evening.
And Alderman Brashaw?
Thank you, Your Honor. Some people think I get a little nitpicky sometimes when I talk about the trash in Freeport and ask constituents to pick up. It helps that I have a few constituents that harp on me about asking people to pick up the trash. We do talk about this at neighborhood watch meetings, but there again, we haven't had a neighborhood watch meeting in several months. So I am going to ask again the people of Freeport to pick up the trash in your yards. along the streets, the alleyways, anywhere that might benefit the looks of your property to your neighbors and anyone else that chooses to go through that area. And also, we have a lot of people in Freeport that complain about the state of their curbs and gutters. Well, we don't always have it in the budget to redo the curbs and gutters. But the other day I was driving through Freeport and I noticed there are a lot of neighborhoods that do have very nice curbs and gutters, with the exception of they let tall weeds grow along the curb, sometimes off of their curb into the street, a good foot. There's big bushy things, and then also along the curb and gutter they let the weeds grow a foot to 2 feet tall, and it's very unsightly. So those are actually the people that are benefiting from nice curbs and gutters, but it doesn't take much to pull the weeds or use a weed whacker to knock them down. Anyhow, that's all I have, my little 2 cents worth this evening.
Thank you, Alderman Brashaw. Alderman Misick.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Alderman Berberet.
Thank you, Mayor. An observation and a thank you to the staff. Tonight's meeting was representative of the high number and quality of grants that the team has applied for and been successful and is still planning for the future, for projects, as was mentioned many times tonight. And grant work is very tedious, time-consuming. You're not always successful, which is unfortunate. But our team here has done a great job from what I can see, and I think we all appreciate their hard work. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Borneman.
I just want to echo what Alderman Brewer just said. That's all I have.
Thank you. Alderman McClanathan.
Thank you. I also was looking to echo those comments and just note the multifaceted approach that was brought here tonight. I know it made for a long meeting, but just to highlight what he was saying on that, a combined $1.1 million that we're applying for in grants for low and moderate income households in that Adams Street corridor there. And if we're successful at that, it'll be at a cost of less than $100,000 for the city there. Approval of about $2 million of water, main, and infrastructure improvements all throughout various areas of the city. Again, maybe about $400,000 of that being forgiven, stretching out the dollars. We had, on the one hand, we were looking at approving demolitions for houses that have gone too far and are a blight on the neighborhood, and then also on the other hand, looking at applying funds for rehabilitation on that to help prevent these houses from getting to those to that situation. I appreciate the multifaceted approach there. Looking to stretch our dollars by getting reimbursement for COVID expenses, and then also the efforts from the fire department and police department as expressed tonight, and finally partnering with one of the 5G providers. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work and it's a reflection of the administration here in regards to it, and I appreciate what you're bringing forward for our consideration, and look forward to continuing to making further progress down the road. Nothing further. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Ross.
Yes, I just want to say thank you for all the work that's going on in all the wards in the city of Freeport. All the wards are getting their piece of the pie, and that's what I like to see. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you. Item number 28 is public comments. Are there any public comments this evening? Yes, if you could please state your name, and you'll have 3 minutes.
My name is Diane Yoakum, and I'm here because, first of all, I want you all to notice that many of us in this room look like me in terms of my skin color, and that we are a majority in our society. I speak on behalf of not only what Ruth Bader Ginsburg stood for, equality and justice. She worked hard for us as women, but we still need champions who work for our communities who do not look like me. And I know that in the past, that with the Social Justice Committee, and just this past weekend, with being at the rally with CURE, Citizens United for Rights, Respect, and Equality, there is still a lot of concern of things that are not happening on their behalf. And so I really request that Pat Sellers' social justice reform plan be used as a guideline to reform our city and legal policing system. I'm fearful it's going to be lost in the shuffle. It is not going to be attended to, and so I'm going to start reading a few of those pieces of it as I begin my comments tonight. To all of you, with respect to you as council members, Madam Mayor, and also Manager Buckus. It asks, send a letter of support for the Justice of Policing Act of 2020. This legislation, introduced by Congressional Black Caucus Chair Karen Bass, calls for a number of reforms to law enforcement practices, policies, and procedures aimed at increased police accountability and community trust building. The Justice in Policing Act of 2020 would remove the barriers to prosecuting police misconduct and recovering damages from officers who have violated civilian rights, and end qualified immunity for law enforcement. Demilitarize police by limiting the transfer of military weaponry to state and local police departments. Combat police brutality by requiring body and dashboard cameras, banning chokeholds, and enacting steps to end racial profiling. Stepping up pressure on the Justice Department to address systemic racial discrimination by law enforcement. Make lynching a federal hate crime, as did the House in passing H.R. 35 earlier this year. Request all taxing bodies with individual boards to approve a sign of a unified resolution condemning police brutality, showing the citizens of Freeport that their local governmental bodies stand with them in the fight against police brutality will help to ease tensions and to make dialogues about racial injustice more productive. These taxing bodies include City of Freeport, Stevenson County Board, Freeport School District Number 145, Freeport Park District, Freeport Township, and other taxing bodies.
Thank you. Your 3 minutes has expired. Thank you.
And I ask that you please consider and keep some of this in the record so that it will not get lost in the shuffle of paper that our citizens are concerned about.
Thank you. If you could please state your name, you also have 3 minutes.
My name is Anjanette Johnson. I request that Pat Sellers' social justice reform plan be used as a guideline to reform the city and county legal system, and also in that form is outlined all the ways that are going to be used to pay for it. Establishing a consent decree. A consent decree is a court order that establishes an enforceable plan for reform. Typically, consent decrees are detailed documents outlining specific requirements and deadlines for actions. Establishing an independent monitor, which has to be a federal judge, will monitor the police department's progress, ensuring that the police department is successfully implementing the changes required in the consent decree. The consent decree method has been proven to be the most effective and transparent way to protect residents and ensure constitutional policing. What areas would a consent decree cover? Community policing, impartial policing, crisis intervention, use of force, recruitment, hiring, and promotion, training, supervision, officer wellness and support, accountability and transparency, data collection, analysis, and management. The Police and Fire Commission. Seek new members to replace the ones whose terms have expired. Make sure no members are appointed to no more than 2 consecutive terms. Ensure there is a good mixture of people on commission, citizens of diverse backgrounds, retired law enforcement, clergy, business segments should be equally represented. A member of the Police and Fire Commission should also serve as an ad hoc member of the Civilian Complaint Review Board. Look at the procedures of selecting police and fire commissioners, as well as the hiring procedures of police officers, and ensure that those procedures include thorough background checks of all police and fire commissioner candidates, cross-reference for any potential conflicts of interest, cross-reference fire and police commission candidate names with any known hate or separatist groups, checking for any and all levels of affiliation, including supporter, sympathetic to cause, or full-fledged membership. Complete contact information for all police and fire commissioners: name, addresses, phone numbers, email address. Send letter of support to Attorney General, Illinois Attorney General, I'm sorry, I don't know how to say that name out loud. Illinois Attorney General is proposing legislation for calling for police officers to be licensed by the state.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Is there anyone else? If you could please state your name.
My name is Jamie Powers. I request that Pat Seller's social justice reform plan be used as a guideline to reform our city and county legal system. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Akia?
I want to start by saying I don't want to offend anybody. I'm kind of upset that our thing keeps going through this rubber band effect. It feels like we've been going through this for like a year. We don't know exactly what's going on. They say that we are not meeting any, I don't know, the community development. That's the only person we communicate with. We continue to ask her, is there anything she needs from us? And she said we are completely, she doesn't need anything. So to hear her say tonight that we don't meet, they feel that we don't meet something, that's not right. I feel like we're being misguided for the information that we do need. And I feel like that there is a law and an ordinance for a meeting hall, and we meet that. That's when Andrew told us that's what we need to apply for. We do have an attorney on this case, but because of the last meeting, we felt like we was in a good place, that we didn't need him. And I feel like when you said that, I'm sorry, I don't know your name. When you said that you don't know why they approved it, it was probably because in that meeting they had a chance to address us and ask us questions, and we were allowed to tell them the answers and state that we are also have the same concerns. We will not be opening this business without enforced security. That's not security from down the street, the guy we know. We need legal security because I want to go home at night as well. I want to be safe. And I also provided Kirsten with the flyers that I've been doing these events since 2015, more community than anything. I feel like we need to reach our kids, not with the Boys and Girls Club. I'm not throwing no shade. I deal with a lot of teenagers. I'm raising this 15-year-old sat in this corner. So do we know a place in the community where somebody can go play a PlayStation 5 that's coming out? Everybody can't afford that over there in the Third Ward. So I am trying my best to do the community events. Yes, we will be allowing people to rent this place out, but we're not, we got a template from the fairgrounds. They will not be allowed to do it without insurance or security. So we have the same concerns. We just ask that somebody actually talk to us and communicate with us, and we can work together, but we can't work together with everybody seeming like they're against this idea. Thank you.
Thank you, Akia. I appreciate that, all the hard work you put into it. Are there any other public comments? Seeing none, I will take a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Brashaw, seconded by Alderman Busker. Do we need all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much.